Hello and welcome to New Frontiers on CCTV International. I'm Ji Xiaojun in Beijing. 2,000 years ago, a group of highly learned scholars emerged in China who would have a major impact on Chinese society that has lasted until today. They were passionate and courageous men who examined the society, politics, economics, and culture of their day and developed theoretical and practical ideas that they hoped would form the basis of a more perfect society. The intellectual movement they launched was a milestone in human cultural history. It ushered in a Chinese age of reason, during which intellectual and cultural currents were unleashed that are still running through Chinese society today. So let's continue our exploration of these ancient schools of thought.
In the year 506 BC, the king of Wu made Sunzi a general, and the new general then led the Wu army against the state of Chu. Sunzi won all 5 battles that ensued, earning him a reputation as a military genius. However, a debate about whether Sunzi actually wrote The Art of War continued unabated for 2,000 years. When archaeologists discovered 2 tombs from the Han Dynasty in the Yinchuo Mountains in 1972 in Linyi, Shandong province, they discovered 2 manuscripts written on bamboo slips. One was entitled Sunzi's Art of War, the other Sun Bin's Art of War. What they found was surprising, because although the 2 books came from the same tradition, they were written in very different styles. With this discovery, the old debate was finally settled. Sun Bin was Sunzi's grandson, and this piece of the puzzle was enough to enable experts to conclude that The Art of War had indeed been written by Sunzi.
他是用最少的语言、最精炼的语言、最精辟的文字，把军事的最主要的内涵都包含在里面，而且他的观念很先进，他的方法很科学，他的思维很辩证。 他用5000字、5000多字，就把这些用兵甚至治国的道理都阐述清楚了。是我国也是世界上现存的第一部具有重大军事理论价值，同时也有超越时空、借鉴意义的伟大兵书。
There was also another school of thought that focused its attention on relations between states, but from a very different perspective to the one taken by the school of the military. This school was one of political rather than military strategists, and it emphasized diplomacy. It also wished to see the creation of an ideal society through the use of wisdom, a realistic approach to issues at hand, flexible tactics, and eloquent oratory. Of the 7 major states remaining at the beginning of the Warring States period, the strongest was the state of Qin, and it posed a great danger to the states of Qi, Chu, Yan, Han, Zhao, and Wei. One faction of political strategists, represented by Zhang Yi, proposed forming an alliance of states stretching from west to east and signing a treaty with Qin to maintain the status quo and thus preserve peace. Another faction, represented by Su Qin, proposed a north to south alliance of states to raise an army that would be strong enough to resist a Qin invasion. The idea being that if Qin invaded any one of the 6 states, they would all fight Qin together. The political strategists constituted a practical school of thought that focused on lobbying state leaders to settle conflicts through diplomacy. The most outstanding of these political strategists was Su Qin, a man of extraordinary eloquence who was highly skilled at persuading state leaders. Su Qin went first to the state of Qin, but when he was spurned by the king of Qin, he then made his way to the states lying to the east.
但是他看到这个秦国强大起来以后，一定会吞并六国，啊，所以他就是主张这个联合起来来抗拒抵抗那个秦国的这样一种扩张，所以他到六国去一个国家的去说服他们，啊，那么应该说最初他这个说服还是相当的成功的。 六个诸侯国呢，都这个被他给说服了，而且都封他为宰相。
Su Qin was the only person in Chinese history, and probably the history of the world, to simultaneously hold the position of Prime Minister in 6 different states. In that most dramatic of times, he was able to use his talents to exert an influence on the whole world in a single night. Even though they only held the station of ordinary citizen, Su Qin and the other political strategists were able to defeat countless powerful warlords using only the tongue as a weapon. In the specific conditions of the time, they exhibited extraordinary wisdom and creativity. They were the earliest and most unique practitioners of diplomacy in China's 5,000 years of history, and their activities had a great impact on the political and military events of the time. Most of the extant records of the political strategists are recorded in Stratagems of the Warring States. In the end, however, the state of Qin found ways to undermine the strategic alliance entered into by the other states, and Qin conquered all of them. The source of this victory is to be found in the legal reforms initiated by Shang Yang and the thinking of the legalists who followed him.
法家是重视法治的，法家想用明确的、具体的、妇孺皆知的这种法律语言、法律 和法规啊，来规范社会生活的各个领域。他要求人人都守法，都严格依法办事，用法律的手段来实现富国强兵、统一天下。法家的理想呢，是铸造一个君臣上下贵贱皆从法的一个法治社会。
In 1975, at a Qin Tumen Shui Hudi Hubei province, archaeologists made a remarkable discovery. In addition to lacquerware, pottery and bronze articles and various kinds of food, they uncovered a treasure trove of documents written on bamboo slips. From these bamboo slips, it was discovered that the tomb was that of a minor legal official in the Qin court who had been so engrossed in his work that he had written down details of Qin law and the cases he had handled on bamboo slips. Fortunately for historians, after he died, these bamboo slips, which number more than 1,100, were buried with him. These records provide us with an intimate look into the Qin legal system and reveal how the arrival of a man named Shang Yang transformed a small, poor state on the fringes of civilization into a powerful country capable of subduing the rest of China. As Shang Yang saw it, if a country wanted a long period of political stability, it needed a strong legal system in which rewards and punishments were clearly differentiated, and a society in which people were promoted on the strength of their ability. History shows that legal reforms can be of such great power that they can sometimes redirect the course of history. In the Warring States period, it took the state of Qin just 19 years to progress from being just one of a number of competing states to being the most powerful state. This was a truly impressive example of legal reform in Chinese history, and its success portended the coming of a massive restructuring of society that would end a way of life that had prevailed in China for 550 years.
Shang Yang's reforms were a key milestone in the history of the state of Qin. Within 2 decades, a more powerful Qin had emerged, which would go on to have a major influence on Chinese history.
In the year 484 BC, Confucius had just completed 14 years of unrelenting travel around China, and he was 68 years old. He had visited princes and met with countless officials and ordinary citizens, and in all that time, he never wavered from his mission of upholding his ideal of promoting benevolent government and rule by virtue.
He 就回到鲁国来教学生，他希望能教出一批有学问、有道德、有才能的人啊，来实现他的那个理想。他是希望这种样子，是吧？所以我们可以看到，这个今天这个《论语》这部书，主要都是他和他的学生的讨论啊、对话。告诉他的学生什么叫做仁爱哈，什么叫做礼。
Legend has it that Confucius had more than 3,000 disciples, more than 70 of whom had mastered the 6 arts of rites, music, archery, charioteering, calligraphy and mathematics. Confucius believed that everyone had the right to an education, and he strongly advocated the ideal of educating everyone without regard to social background. And this ideal became a cornerstone of subsequent education systems in China.